the Fed and the powers that be try to pump the market up ahead of that.
Y'all know what time it is. I'm here live with Uncle James, here down the street from Wall Street. You know, I just got done on the New York Stock Exchange trading floor with Peter Tuchman. Now I'm here with Uncle James. Uncle James, what's going on? Mr. BPT, the man who bet me that oil would outperform Bitcoin last year. I thought he was crazy. And I haven't seen James in probably like 5 or 6 years. But as soon as I saw him, it was like I see him every day, right? So glad to see you.
It was awesome.
James, how's it been going?
Everything is as can be expected. You know, we're still in a choppy bear market. I know this week seems pretty good for a lot of people. Be real careful because you're going to get a lot of false rallies during a bear market. That's part of the process. People ask me when the bottom is. If you look at market cycles, we're probably going to be in this very uncertain, difficult environment until the middle of October. And maybe the end of October.
Midterm election.
Historically, that's kind of that. Always October is that because of the '87 crash. I know they say that September is the worst month mathematically, but from my experience, because of the '87 crash, October always seems to be a turning point with the market. The other thing that's going on is we got the interim election coming up. And usually the Fed and the powers that be try to pump the market up ahead of that. I'm not so sure it's going to help or it's going to do anything right now, but it might add a little, they might pump a little foam into that market just to try to bubble it up a little bit.
Okay.
So that may help us.
Ask you a question. What do you think? I know you've been around BPT. You told me about it when it was $2. Now it's pumping up almost to $20. What is your take on oil for the rest of 2022?
I think we got another 50% move at least.
Wow.
So you're talking like it's 110 a barrel West Texas Intermediate, something like that. I'm not sure the exact price. I figure we got another $50, $60 probably easily. Your main problem is you really have two issues. You have politics, which is kind of governments are turning their back on fossil fuels because they're worried about destroying the earth and global warming, and that's kind of carbon and all that stuff. And then on top of that, you have an industry that hasn't really invested in their infrastructure in well over 10 years. So even if you have a massive capex, like huge spending on building refineries and everything, you're just not going to be able to pump it anyway. And even like last week, despite all the talk, the Biden administration blocked over 1,000 oil leases in Alaska. So that's clearly saying you're really not worried about oil prices going up.
Okay.
So that's the way I look.
So are you going to hold? Oil, it usually spikes in times of like today.
Crisis.
Like when we have crisis, we have things like that,
Yep.
but then it scoops back down.
Right.
Because guess what? Midterm election, the big thing that's going to be on the board is get those gas prices down. We got to get these oil prices down. Then the oil prices keep coming down.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm scared to hold
Right.
on.
Well, I
I'm
think
holding,
you're hearing that. You're hearing people say that out loud, but that's not what the actions are doing. I don't see any actions of any political body right now to try to lower oil prices. They're not doing it at all. They may say they're trying to do it, but they're not really doing it. They're just doing pittance things here on the end. I would look at a couple of things to worry about. Oil, even though it jumps with crises, is also more than anything, more than supply and demand, is very recession conscious. So if it looks like we're going to go into a major recession, which I don't think we are. In fact, I think the recession is behind us, or at least the economic slowdown was behind us more than in front of us at this point. The oil prices, if there's a perception that there's a big recession coming, oil prices will tail off. The other thing is the midterm election.
So you
we
said
have a
that
big change.
if the market senses a recession, you think we're going to see a market sell-off? I mean,
You're going to see a temporary easing because they're going to say, in a recession, there's going to be less demand because people aren't going to travel as much. Businesses aren't going to, ship as many goods. Amazon's not going to do as many deliveries, all that kind of stuff. That's kind of the old-fashioned thinking behind it. Maybe it doesn't really apply, but I see, like, Where did oil get a little weak recently? When China locked down Shanghai, when there was lockdowns in China, and they were saying it was suppressing energy demand because they were shutting down everything. I don't think that's sustainable. I don't think they're going to do that. I think it didn't work anyway. I don't know why they're trying to still do it. It's basically been proven that lockdowns were a failure. If there's one thing we learned from COVID is lockdowns don't work. And so I think that would be something that would hurt. The other thing is if we have a huge Republican sweep in the midterms, and I mean massive, and on top of them winning, they actually do something, which is the tricky part, and they focus on spurring, oil discovery back in the United States like we had during the Trump administration. I have a feeling even if they win, that's going to. I don't have enough faith in them at this point to think they're really going to do anything if they win. But it's shaping up. It looks like it's going to be a pretty resounding. The Republicans are going to look really strong in the midterms, I think, no matter what happens.
Okay, what do you think about inflation? Inflation, CPI report was at 8.3%. What do you think about it? Do you think it's going to have a big effect on the market?
I think inflation, the genie got out of the bottle, and the Fed is trying to catch up. Now, they keep talking like, nothing is linear. It doesn't go straight up. It kind of swoops and it does like lines, right? So we had this huge burst, which the Fed was totally asleep at the switch. Sorry, and I called it when I told you oil was going to outperform Bitcoin, I said inflation is going to go crazy, and it's like it was like in the tea leaves there, the Fed has been asleep at the switch. Now they're trying to play catch up, and they're talking about half basis point raises, maybe 7 or 8 raises, or maybe 6 more on top of what they've already done. We need it. I would say if you really want it, if you're really old school, you'd be looking for what I would call a Paul Volcker moment, where a new chairman of the Fed takes over with a new administration and just goes on TV and says, put on your seatbelts, the printing press is going to be shut off in about an hour. You got finish your drinks and go home and do what you got to do. And he just jammed it, and then everything just stopped dead, and it was chaos for a little while, but then he wrung inflation out of the environment probably for a good 30 years maybe.
We went into a recession.
Yeah. This is why when people ask me about the bear market, even though we've had this week was a better week, we haven't felt enough pain yet. I always joke when I see Jim Cramer cry, I know that's the bottom of I know we're at the bottom. I know it's time to start buying. And we haven't gotten to that point yet. There's still too many cocky people, and there's way too many people on Wall Street that know the recession is coming. And when you know something's going to happen, it never happens. I think even the Fed said this is the most foreseen recession in economic history. So I don't think we're going to have a recession. I think a choppy market, October, and then we're going to have the midterms, and maybe there's going to be some changes, maybe not. And I think we're kind of stuck with this horse at least for the next couple of years. I think we're going to have to deal with this for quite a while.
Okay, so what else? 2022. What do we got for the rest of 2022? We're in May right now. S&P 500 down 15%. Dow Jones down 10%, and the Nasdaq down 25%. Worst start ever. Right? What do you think we got?
Yeah, I think from an investor standpoint, a lot of the newer investors who are watching this are probably freaking out right now. What I want to stress to people is if you're putting money in 401k plans, regular reinvestment, do not stop. That is the biggest mistake that most.
Would you add on more?
I would, if you can do more, I would, because now you're buying at bargain prices, and keep buying because a lot of this stuff is going to come back. On the other hand, be a little careful because yesterday's winners do not make today's winners. The market has changed. Look at energy, oil stocks. Look at metals that make batteries. See, when I buy oil, I'm not against alternative energy. I look at the whole thing together. I think alternative energy is really cool, but I'm a realist and I see some issues like storage, like batteries are an issue. And they were an issue when Thomas Edison made electric cars in the 1900s. It was an issue then. It's an issue now. So what would I do? I might look to invest in lithium. The problem I would be careful for new investors is mining stocks are notoriously dangerous to invest in. There's scam city. Okay, to be
Mining?
strict. Anything in mining, yeah.
Why is that?
A lot of times, the quality companies are these big, huge mining companies where if maybe they mine gold, silver, copper, zinc, and lithium, and you're not going to get that much kick in the stock price if lithium becomes a big deal. So
Okay.
yeah, you really have to do your homework. Like when you talk about finances, you really got to dig in and look at the finances of those mining stocks to make sure that they're stable, they're legit, they're really mining. A lot of them don't even mine those. A lot of those ones in Canada are all fake. Those are like made up stories. They're not real at all. So that I would be careful. And I would look in those areas. You got to look.
Yep. Okay.